So I'm in Character AI, which is a place where you can create characters that you can respond to and interact with using natural language. So it's a chatbot, but behind the chatbot is a whole bunch of really quite detailed and sophisticated prompting. So you can see that in my definition of this character, I've got an extensive prompt, but I'm not even a quarter of the way through the amount of size that's allowed for me. But what does this all actually mean? What can I do with this? Well, I can have text-based interactions. So I can say, tell me about teaching in a uni. Is it great? For example, and my character will come back.
Sure, I love it. The students are all there because they have chosen to be there. So it is an absolute pleasure to teach them. I can take more risks than I did with 16, 18-year-olds. And I can assume a certain level of prior knowledge and academic writing skill than perhaps I did in FE. How do you feel you are doing as a teacher?
Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to call in and have a voice conversation so you can see how this might work. You will notice already that he sounds like me. That's because I used a 10-second recording of my voice to train the AI when it speaks back to me. You will also notice down here I've got a whole bunch of different other characters that allow me to put different personalities in and use them in different scenarios. Anyway, let's have a quick call with this guy and see what he has to say. So I'm really interested in thinking about the way I could use Character AI for teaching and learning. You've got any ideas?
I have had good experience with my students using Character AI, and I personally enjoy playing with AI too. What I see Character AI being used best for in the classroom is to develop knowledge application skills. For example, ask your students to generate a dialogue between, say, King Henry VIII and a courtier. They can have fun with the dialogue and then discuss the context, the personalities, the likely motivations of each character, and so on. Does that help? Please feel free to ask more.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good idea, but how can I be confident that the information about Henry VIII is going to be accurate?
That is a very pertinent point, and I think that it is a useful learning opportunity in itself. To be honest, I have found that you are just as likely to get good information as you are to get inaccurate information, depending on your subject. I have found that it is particularly difficult for the AI to get accurate information in relation to soft subjects, such as the arts and humanities, especially when asking about very niche topics. Would that concern you in using Character AI in the classroom?
Potentially, but I think what's really important here is that we think about different ways that we can exploit these technologies. Now, what you described is quite a nice novelty. I can imagine it being quite an interesting activity. But how else might I use it? What if I was doing independent study? What other ideas have you got?
If you are doing independent study, and I am thinking here about students who are at home learning, then Character AI is a really useful tool for practicing speaking and writing. For example, using the dialogue we were talking about earlier, or using Character AI to generate writing prompts. It can also be used for developing language and thinking skills. For example, ask the character for a series of words related to a certain topic, then have the students develop their critical thinking skills by asking why they think Character AI has chosen those words. How does that sound?
Okay, let's try it. So one of the things that I'm really interested in is the etymology of words and how they've changed over time. So one of the things that I use to illustrate a point about the way that we perceive assessment is to isolate its Latin root, accidere. Can you tell me anything about the Latin root of the word assessment and talk me through why this might be an interesting way of considering the nature of assessment?
Sure. The word assessment itself comes from the Latin word accidere, which means to sit beside. Originally, it referred to the act of sitting at someone's side or next to someone in order to observe them closely and make a judgment about their character or behavior. This etymology is interesting in the context of assessment because it reminds us that assessment is essentially about observing and judging a learner's performance. It suggests that assessment should be a personal and thoughtful act, involving close attention to the learner's performance, and careful consideration of their strengths and weaknesses.
So, in your view, would you say that the examination in the big hall with 1,000 students sat in rows meets that definition?
That is a great question. I guess the answer is no, it doesn't. I'm assuming that you are asking about closed book exams. Sitting in rows with no interaction seems to go against the notion of sitting beside and observing the student and making a judgment. You may well say that this isn't really assessment in a personal sense. It is more about the efficiency and effectiveness of a system of awarding an assessment result. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, very interesting. I'm going to have to go now, though. Ta-da.
Great chatting, Matt. Have fun experimenting